inspiration for the Reimagining Real Estate book really came from several conversations over the past couple of years with real estate investors who have just a very different mindset about building wealth. But even though their mindset, it's so similar, you talk to one real estate investor and you talk to another one, and they might be in a completely different asset class, and they might be, one might be flipping houses, one might be doing it for long-term rentals, one might be commercial real estate, one might be multifamily, but the way that they think about money is so similar. And yet the things that they think about, there's still elements to their overall financial picture and their personal and business economy that I felt like there were things that were missing. So my goal with this book was to kind of have a common thread that kind of weaved everything together, so that if you put all these different ideas and concepts together kind of in one place, the light bulb will go off and they would figure out ways to even be more efficient and effective with their capital. So real estate, the first thing about real estate that a lot of people who aren't involved in real estate don't understand is that in the tax code, there are substantial incentives to being a real estate investor and an owner of real estate, where you use it as an asset to build wealth. And realistically, if you understand that the tax code is really just a series of incentives that drive investor behavior, if you start to think that way, then you say, well, what does the tax code say that I should be doing with my money? And whether you own a business, you invest in real estate, paper assets, or commodities, there's benefits in the tax code for all those different asset classes. But with real estate, the uniqueness is the banking system supports the purchase of real estate, meaning that I can have a certain amount of money, and that amount of money would buy me 4 to 5 times the amount of real estate, because I can borrow the rest. And then I get the tax benefits on all of my property, and I get the cash flow on my property, and all of these other things that kind of relate to all the benefits that deal with real estate. A real estate investor understands all of those. Somebody that isn't in real estate probably doesn't understand them, and that's why they think, well, real estate's risky, or, oh, I don't want to be involved in real estate because it's, number one, something I don't understand, but it's something that you really need to be an investor. You can't just passively do it. You got to get involved. And to me, that is why when you tailor information and education towards a class of investors like real estate investors, you really got to hit on the things that they realize and they see, and a lot of other people don't. When I say protecting the purpose of your money, what we're really talking about is the mindset that money that you save and money that you earn and money that you have invested, if that money's job is just to sit in those accounts and grow, then for a lot of people, that might be what they end up doing. But I always ask every person that we ever work with at E3, wherever your money's at, whatever it's doing, however it's invested, however it's allocated, what's the purpose? If you think about that, and that's where you start from, okay, so what is the purpose of my money? You start to have a very different conversation with people. Because number one, that's not how they think. So, our goal at E3 is to help people think differently about their money. So if they start thinking about the purpose, and then they define a purpose, the next thing is, okay, well, how do we protect that purpose? How do we make sure that the reason you have that money there actually becomes reality? Then you start to think about, okay, well, what are the risks? And do I have my money in the right place? Is my money in the right assets or asset classes? When you start to have that conversation, in most cases, because other financial professionals they worked with or other so-called experts that maybe they get their information from, you start to realize, well, nobody's really ever asked me what I think about my money. They're just telling me what you should do without ever knowing. So if you can define the purpose of your money, then your wealth and tax strategies can be built around that. And that is not a complicated thing to do. I think for a lot of people, though, the idea of actually knowing what the purpose of their money is, it's almost foreign to them. They've probably never sat down and thought about it. So once they do, it's almost liberating for them because they can say, well, all right, finally, I know what I'm doing. And on a go-forward basis, when they're saving money, the focus is I save it for a purpose. I'm investing money for a purpose. There's an end goal, and that end goal isn't just, well, to see it grow on paper. The safety, liquidity, and growth model is something that we developed at E3 when we're helping clients who have defined the purpose of their money and they're determining which financial vehicles they want to place their money in or which asset classes they want to put their money to work. We start to ask them about the characteristics of those of the purpose of the money. So, with safety, we want to understand, are you wanting to protect the principal or the income off of that principal? When it comes to liquidity, we need to understand how much liquidity do you need, when do you need it, looking at the time frame, looking at the asset class and the periods in which money can be liquid and at the same time could be illiquid depending on the market, the economy. And then ultimately when it comes to growth, we're asking them about the type of growth and the way in which they're going to earn growth on their money. And we explain to folks that you can basically earn growth on your money two ways. You can generate income off of your asset, and you can also create appreciation from your asset based on how it's invested. So your growth can occur in both income and appreciation simultaneously. It can be one over the other. But if you look at all three of those characteristics, safety, liquidity, and growth, and realize that not all of those things are going to be at the highest level. You can't have an asset that has 100% safety, 100% liquidity, and the highest growth potential. That's not how the economy works. We've got to look at financial vehicles where we're creating a balance. Or if we have some accounts that are maybe high in safety and liquidity, probably not a lot of growth potential, like a bank account. But you can have some money allocated there and other money allocated maybe to where it's high liquidity, high growth, but maybe not as much safety. Or other assets where it's a lot of safety, growth potential, but maybe not as much liquidity. Having a diversification amongst different asset classes that balance each of those characteristics, safety, liquidity, and growth, really helps us align the strategies we present to a client with the purpose of their money. So for a real estate investor, normally what you're going to see from a flow of money is first off, they're going to need to create capital. So whether that's capital they get from saving money, whether it's capital that they get access to through financial institutions or maybe friends and family, whatever it is, they're pooling dollars, but they're going to need capital to be able to invest. And in most cases, they're still not going to use that capital to fully purchase a piece of real estate with cash, right? They're going to go in, they're going to look to go to a bank, get financing, get leverage. So put 20% down, 25% down, depending on what is needed. When they do that, now they're purchasing an asset that has a higher level of value than just their capital, but also the income that can be generated or the potential appreciation that can be generated is based on a much higher number. So if I have $50,000 and I buy a $250,000 property, well, my appreciation is off of $250,000. My income is off of what that $250,000 property can generate. So my net results should be a lot higher from a return on investment, not because real estate is the best asset in the world, or there's no the return. It's how you structure it. It's how you have money working for you in multiple places. So the flow of your dollars is basically, I'm investing that capital, I'm working with a financial institution to leverage that capital. So I got some of my money and the OPM, other people's money. So I get the bank's money on top of mine, but then the cash flow I generate, that's purely off of how profitable my property is. If I fix it up, I put money into it, that increases the value. I get to keep that value. Now, of course, money's going to have to flow back to the bank to, make payments on my loan, but I get to keep the difference. So if I do a good job of investing in a property that has good value, that's going to appreciate, that's going to create good cash flow, I can manage all of that to be working off of my original principal, my original capital that I put together. So for a lot of real estate investors, I believe the reason why they love real estate is because the net results that get created from the way money flows is so much higher than more traditional type investments that they've been accustomed to. And when they see those results and experience them versus other things, that probably leads them to do more real estate investing. So the concept of privatized banking, number one, it's been around for hundreds of years. So this is not a new concept. But I think for a lot of savers or investors, especially real estate investors, the reality is probably over the past 30, 40 years, the role that banks and the banking institutions, financial institutions have played in helping people build wealth. The role that they play today is very different than 30 or 40 years ago. 30 or 40 years ago, you could go into a bank, you actually talked to a person, you built a relationship with somebody, they built a relationship with you, they wanted to understand what you were doing with your money and how the bank could assist you, how the bank could be a partner with you. So therefore, borrowing money wasn't just about the transaction, it was about them being part of your team. It was a process, and you always felt like the bank was in your corner. And if the market was going up, the bank was happy for it. If the market was going down, the bank was there for you. Today, it's a very different relationship. Banks are financial institutions. Banks are about the bottom line. Banks are all about reducing their risk as much as possible. So in most cases, banks love to loan money to people that don't need the money at rates that they're willing to pay, even though, could there be a lower rate, a competitive rate? Possibly, but if they can get you in a rate that's probably higher than what you need in the marketplace, they're going to do it because it's all about the bottom line. So what we've kind of talked about with our clients and what we've investigated is the idea of really helping individuals, families, small business owners, and especially real estate investors understand that they can kind of reclaim the banking function within their personal and business economy. And when I say banking function, there's basically three roles a bank plays. It's a place where you can save money, place where you can borrow money, and then a place where you can essentially kind of run your operations. So pay your bills, your checking, your savings, that type of thing, where you can kind of move money around and basically, take money in and have money going out. So what we've looked at is the saving and the borrowing capabilities that a bank offers. Are there other financial institutions that can do the same things for you, but maybe do it in a better way? Or reduce your cost, control more of your capital. And we've basically done the research to find out that yes, there are ways to do that. The institutions that we use are mutual insurance companies. The way in which we do that is we take specially designed life insurance contracts, build them in a way that you can essentially do the saving and borrowing function inside of the insurance contract, get your money working for you inside the insurance contracts, and also outside it within your own personal or business economy. For real estate investors, it's a way to save money, utilize that money to go purchase real estate. As you create more cash flow, flow that money back into your privatized banking system, and then just to continue that velocity of money working for you. So the idea of privatized banking or infinite banking or bank on yourself, it's known by a lot of different names. It's no more than taking the process of saving, utilizing, and then replenishing your savings and basically privatizing it, taking it in-house versus leaving it in control of the bank. And if you start to think about that and think about how much money do I as a real estate investor have flowing through my bank accounts? What I mean by that is the amount of money that you save, build up, then pay out, and then reclaim through your cash flow from rents or your appreciation in properties that you cash out and move back into your bank accounts. If you really start doing the math, it's probably hundreds of thousands of dollars over your investing lifetime. Most likely, if you're a really good investor, probably millions of dollars. And the question is, how much is that money working for you inside the bank? Virtually none of it's working for you. The reason you don't keep a lot of money in the bank is because you're not making anything on it. So your goal is, I got to get that money to work outside. So if you have money flowing through the banking system and it's not working for you, might there be a better place to have money flow through and reduce those opportunity costs, have your money working for you in more than one place? Ultimately, over time, that type of privatized banking system may generate an extra 3 to 4% tax-free on your dollars, which isn't a lot of money. But if you take that 3 or 4% and add it to the 12, 15, 20% that you're maybe making in real estate, all of a sudden, that sounds pretty good. Like adding 3 or 4% to a 15% return is like getting an extra 20% on your money without having to do anything else. It's just a better way of having your money work for you. The thing about life insurance and using it as a cash flow tool, part of the strategy relates to, number one, the tax preferential treatment that life insurance receives in the tax code. So if you're ever bored and you want to look up the tax code, go to Internal Revenue Code section 7702, and it will explain everything about life insurance and how essentially the IRS treats life insurance as an asset differently than other savings places. So first off, any dividends that you earn inside of a life insurance contract are treated as return of capital. So when you earn those dividends, you're not paying taxes on them. Any interest that builds up inside of the insurance contract, it gross tax deferred, meaning you're not paying taxes on it while you're earning it. And life insurance contracts have the ability to have preferential loans where you're borrowing against the cash value. And because it is treated as a loan, the IRS does not tax you on the use of that money. So a life insurance contract, if in our mind it's specially designed, it can be built to essentially optimize how your money is saved, how it's utilized, and how it's replenished. So your cash flow, how you use money inside of a bank, you can do the same thing with inside of an insurance contract. The tax preferential treatment just basically is an underlying foundation of the benefits. But then the second thing you have to start thinking about is a life insurance company, an institution, as a bank is a financial institution. When you borrow money from a bank, the bank pretty much controls the terms of the loan. They tell you, the amortization, they give you the rate, they tell you how much you got to pay them, they're going to tell you how much of your payment goes to principal and how much goes to interest. All of those things are controlled by the bank, and the bank makes you qualify for a loan, right? So if you go to a bank and say, I want to borrow money, the bank's not going to be like, oh, sure, just get in line, we'll take care of you. The bank's going to make you go through an application process. With an insurance company, when you have a policy loan, you control the terms of the loan. The insurance company is going to say, okay, here's how much based on your private banking system, here's how much is available, and they're going to dictate the interest rate. Those are the two terms that of the two features in the terms that they're going to decide. Everything else is up to you. How much you take out, if you pay it back, when you pay it back, when it's paid back. Most of the insurance companies will pay back principal first, so that if you pay that money back and then want to use it, it's available to you. So when you look at the terms of the loan and the control there, you look at the ability to design your cash flow system to optimize your personal and business economy. That makes a lot more sense when you're looking at things as an entrepreneur. It's all about cash flow. So if you can control all those elements to cash flow and you can build it the right way, in our minds, that's way more beneficial than doing it the traditional way through a bank as a financial institution. So surplus is an acronym that I came up with as we were thinking about ways to educate an entrepreneur who is looking to put their money to work and understand essentially a cash flow model. So surplus stands for savings, utilization, replenish, purpose of your money, leverage, uninterrupted compound growth, and then synergy. So that's the acronym surplus. And essentially that relates to the cash flow model of save money first in order to utilize it and then replenish those dollars so that you're constantly able to utilize your capital. Focusing on the purpose of the money. Why is the money there in the first place? Understanding that once you determine the purpose, the next thing that you look to do as an entrepreneur is you want to leverage your dollars, right? So if I got $1 and I know what the purpose of it is, but I can get $2 or $3 or $4 or $5 to work for me versus that one, obviously that way I'm going to get way more bang for my buck. And then what we look at with entrepreneurs is figure out ways to get uninterrupted compound growth, meaning that while your money is invested, it's working for you, and yet you have the capability to utilize those dollars. So with real estate, you have uninterrupted compound growth because you can put money into a property, the property appreciates, you could actually access that capital and not impact the appreciation, right? Like if you have a $500,000 property that grows to $600,000 and you could invariably get access to that $100,000, that doesn't mean your property drops in value. What you owe on it might go up, but the property could still appreciate at that higher level. It's the same thing with life insurance. The way we design it, if I have money working for me inside of the policy and I borrow against it, that money that's still inside that policy, it's still growing and compounding. So that uninterrupted compound growth is very valuable for an entrepreneur to get their money working. And then ultimately, the synergy is having resources in all areas of money that are working for your benefit and are collaborating in a way that you're reducing opportunity costs, you're optimizing the efficiency of your capital, and ultimately you're looking at the best way to generate a return on investment, save on my taxes, improve my cash flow, build my wealth. All those different things can be done if you're working with a team of financial professionals. So there are several different areas of advice that I would have for if you want to call it a new real estate investor or someone that's curious about investing in real estate, which again, one of our areas that we love to focus on at E3 is helping someone embrace their entrepreneurial mindset. So we want people to be entrepreneurial. We believe that's the best form of financial security, is to control the outcome of your financial success. So real estate happens to be a great way for people to really become entrepreneurial. So the first thing that I believe is important for someone if they want to get into real estate is you really have to get a strong understanding of your current financial situation, right? So you got to understand your lifestyle needs. You got to understand, okay, what are my income sources right now? What are my expenses? What are my my capital sources. If I'm going to be investing in real estate, you're going to need capital. So you need to find those areas out. You need to gather the information. You need to make sure you understand that if I go in this direction, what am I going to need to do with my current lifestyle? It's not like you're just going to stop living your life to invest in real estate. You're going to need to be able to balance those things. The second thing would be is that you really need to focus in on not just the asset class of real estate, but the category. Are you going to be a single family home investor? Are you investing for the long term to generate cash flow? Are you investing really short term, more from a flipping, take advantage of where the market is and find opportunities to generate wealth when you buy a property, fix it up, sell it? Are you going to be someone that is looking at doing one property at a time? Are you going to have multiple properties at the same time where you're going to need more management experience? The other thing would be, are you going to be involved in more commercial, more residential? Is it multifamily? There's a lot to kind of take in when it comes to real estate because real estate is very diversified. There's a lot of different ways you can get in real estate. It's not just one way of doing it. Just like saying if you're investing in the stock market, it's not like that's just one way of doing things. So the second thing would be understanding the asset class and diving a little bit deeper and figuring out the different categories. The third thing would be is when you're looking at investing in real estate, one of the most important things that we will talk about with folks is the ownership of those assets and how do you make sure that you're protecting yourself and those assets against possible liabilities that may exist today or may come in the future. So are you structuring things inside of limited liability companies? Are you having a holding company that if you're going to do multiple real estate properties? Are you taking on partners? The risk and liability that goes with that. Again, a lot of times these are things that kind of come up as you expand your real estate holdings, but you want to be thinking about those things up front. And that is one of the things that we do at E3 is really help those entrepreneurial-minded people walk through the strategy of investing in real estate. Not just, let's go do it and we'll figure it out later. Lay those things out up front, because if you understand what needs to be in place, you kind of, lay the groundwork, then you can move at a lot faster pace. You figure things out first and then hit the ground running. Don't, get into it, buy a couple properties, and then you're realizing that, oh, well, I didn't realize the risk. I didn't realize that I'm not getting a chance to take advantage of all the tax benefits. I didn't realize that the bank is going to look at my financial situation a certain way. And all of a sudden, you have to either unwind things or you realize that investments that you made aren't going to be as profitable. Yes, you can learn from your mistakes. You can learn while you earn. But in our minds, it would be much more beneficial long term. If you really want to be an entrepreneur, figure those things out. Run it like a business. If you run it like a business, you need a business plan. You know what your capital is. You know what your expenses are going to be. Let's figure that stuff out first so that when you get started in your first property, your first real estate endeavor, everything after that is going to be success. Securities offered through Kalos Capital Incorporated, member FINRA, SIPC, MSRB, and investment advisory services offered through Kalos Management Incorporated, an SEC registered investment advisor. Both are located at 11525 Parkwood Circle, Alpharetta, Georgia 30005. Kalos Capital Incorporated and Kalos Management Incorporated do not provide tax or legal advice. E3 Consultants Group is not an affiliate or subsidiary of Kalos Capital Incorporated or Kalos Management Incorporated.